So hey everyone, welcome to this webinar on to how to stand out in the current job market. We all know there was pandemic, 2 years have been, and the job market is pretty much unstable. People are getting jobs, but high salary people are also getting fired or laid off, right? So the current job scenario is pretty much uncertain around the world, be it UK or America or Asia Pacific. So today we have Margaret to talk about, how to stand out in this current job market. Little about Margaret. Margaret holds more than 17 years of recruiting experience for global technology and e-commerce companies from Europe and the US. She recruited for companies like Microsoft, Cisco, Expedia, Typeform, Box, King, and there's a huge list after that. So without taking more time, so Margaret, the floor is all yours, and yeah, best of luck.
Thank you for the introduction, and welcome everyone to today's webinar or tonight's webinar, depending on where you're based. I'm based in London. Let's get started. So thank you for the introduction. Yes, I've spent 17 years recruiting for technology companies, both global companies such as Expedia, or VMware, but also for tech startups from Series A to Series D. And during that time, I've recruited for all technical and non-technical positions for, I think, really all corporate functions for these organizations, very internationally. I've recruited extensively in Europe. I've recruited quite extensively in the US as well. I'm doing some recruitment in the US now as well for a SaaS company called Mixmax. And yes, I've worked with people really around the globe to help them get the jobs and promotions they wanted as an interview coach during my one-to-one coaching session. So hopefully I can use a lot of examples today that will help you secure a job no matter what the market is doing. And out of the people who are attending today, like how many of you are looking for a job right now, or you think you'll be looking in the next 3 months? Okay, so a couple of people raised their hands. Yeah, okay. So I presume most of you are either looking or will be looking. So you're definitely in the right place. So okay. So what we're looking today, very briefly, what is actually that Great Reshuffle and how it's affecting a job market. I will talk to you what recruiters want to see on your resume, and I have seen thousands of resumes at this stage in the last 17 years. So I've definitely seen a lot of them. I can give you some advice here. I will talk to you about how to quantify your achievements. I will share some really good examples of how you can make yourself stand out on your resume. I will share some great resume examples. I will then move on to online networking skills and how that could be potentially the greatest job search method there is. I will talk to you briefly about the best way to research the company and the interviewer, and again, very briefly about how to stand out in job interviews. I mean, this whole thing could be like a half-a-day workshop, right? We have about half an hour to 40 minutes, so I will cover as much as we can today. So firstly, what's that Great Reshuffle? So during COVID, many people have decided that they want more meaning in their life. They don't want to fit their lives around their jobs, but they want the job to fit their life. So millions of people have left their jobs in search of more fulfilling roles and with greater flexibility. So that's been called the Great Reshuffle. So obviously there are sectors where there's a huge shortage of staff, like hospitality, for example, or travel, and people are looking for different things right now. So, for example, ability to work remotely, it's really highly valued amongst employees. Many people want that to continue even after the pandemic is like fully over. It's kind of over, but not completely over. And even in my current role, when I'm hiring, in many locations around the globe, and it's actually really we are a fully remote company, so we don't even have offices anymore. The headquarters used to be in San Francisco. Right now, we're fully remote. We have a fully distributed workforce, and that's what a lot of people are looking for these days. Also, because there were so many job vacancies in the last year, I think the job market has been just crazy. When I was looking for a new recruitment contract in February, I had 2 offers within a month, which is unheard of. Normally, even in a good market, it will be 3 to 4 months to secure something I'll be actually happy with. So because there are so many job vacancies, that means that pay, benefits, and flexibility really became differentiating factors for employers. And also there was a Microsoft Work Trend Index. It was a survey done last year. They talked to 30,000 people in 31 countries, and over 2/5 of people are considering leaving their employer in the next year. So flexibility and hybrid work opportunities have definitely become a deciding factor for many. And in general, it's potentially changing a little bit now, but in general, confidence levels in job moves, I think are still pretty high for a lot of people. So people in the tech industries, logistics, and construction, they typically at ease with their ability to find new employment. And I know we're hearing a lot about layoffs, redundancies right now. And yes, a lot of tech companies, they have maybe put hiring on hold, which, I think that happens to companies that have been overhiring, that pay scale has never continued. From my recruitment perspective, I'm still seeing companies recruiting. Yeah, I'm still getting contacted by recruiters. I still see quite a lot of jobs available. Companies might be a little bit more careful, but it's really not that bad. It's definitely not as bad. I remember how bad it was during COVID when it took me 10 months to secure the next contract because there was nothing going on. So it's absolutely not the case right now. So before I actually talk about how to quantify your experience, I wanted to talk to you about what recruiters are looking for, because it doesn't matter what the market is doing, whether it's a good market or whether it's a bad market, and especially, of course, when it's a bad job market, you really need to be able to make yourself stand out. And many resumes I see, the candidates are just not making themselves stand out at all. And then they are surprised why they're not getting interviews. So before I talk about quantifying your experience, let me just give you some tips on what recruiters are looking for on your resume. So the first thing I look at when looking at someone's resume is the most recent position. Does this person have the experience necessary to come in, learn the role, do it and do it successfully? So that's, that really should be the most important part of your resume, is really like the summary section and the most recent position. And anything you've done that's listed on the job description, anything that's listed on a job description that you've done, you really need to make it clear to the recruiter or whoever is looking at your resume within seconds of looking at your resume. So have a strong summary section or the core competency section. I will share some examples later, and just really make sure that all the experience in your current position has enough tangible achievements that are relevant to the position. It's also like company recognition. It's not necessarily that some companies are better than others, although some of them most certainly are. It's basically like how quickly can I assign a frame of reference. So, let's say you worked at Amazon in project management role, or then I can assume that you are used to managing multiple projects and working in a really fast-paced environment. Maybe you worked for a well-known crash and burn startup. Then I can assume that you used to kind of running at a sprinter's pace, and again that you kind of like got involved in a lot of different activities. So if you work for a company that's maybe not so important, not important, that's maybe not so well known, you might just want to list something like a 1-sentence summary explaining what the company does and whether it's relevant to the job you're actually applying for, especially if you're changing sector. It's also like the overall experience, your story and career progression. So, do the titles make sense? Like how long have you stayed in each position? If you change jobs every 6 months, every 1 year, that doesn't look that great unless there were contracts. And if these were contracts, you might want to mention that. Also, like if you have been promoted, even if it's something like from, finance manager to a senior finance manager, mention that on your resume as well. You do want to show that career progression. Also, do the titles make sense? If you're a VP of marketing in a 5-person company, that's obviously not the same level as a VP of marketing in a Fortune 500 company. So all of that will be very important. And achievements, it's so important. I actually didn't even mention that here, but the achievements are so incredibly important. Many resumes are very duty oriented. So the person will mention what the responsibilities were, but there's not enough about achievements, Or it's actually quite, I'm recruiting for one position right now in product marketing manager. It's so interesting. Like I'm getting resumes from people who actually have some great achievements, but they just have zero relevance to product marketing manager role. So the achievements have to be relevant to what is it that you're actually looking for. And I will share some examples later. Now, gaps on your resume, I think that's fine as long as there's a sufficient explanation. You know, maybe you took a year out to have a family or, you know, set up your own business. It could easily take a few months to find a job as well. So that will not necessarily be an issue. But if you have been out of work for a longer time, like, you know, 2 years and more, you definitely need some kind of explanation there, because that just might make the recruiter wonder. Keywords are super important. So if you like, it's especially important in terms of the hard skills. So imagine that a recruiter is receiving 30, 50, 100, you know, 200 applications per role. It's typically not quite as many, but it will be more for some positions. So if you look at, you know, I remember once when I was working for Expedia, I've received 174 applications for the finance director position. And the hiring manager really wanted someone with e-commerce experience. And guess how many people had that e-commerce experience? 3 out of 174. So, you know, when you're applying, just make sure that you use the specific keywords listed on the job description, especially in terms of the hard skills. Overall organization is important as well. So no spelling mistakes. You want to have a clean, you know, clear layout, a lot of white space. Again, I will share some good examples. Obviously, like use Grammarly, for example, to check for any spelling mistakes. And also potentially personal online footprint. Now, that will be not relevant to every single position, but if you're an engineer, if you share your GitHub, you know, the recruiter might want to have a look at that. If you share your LinkedIn, many hiring managers will look at your LinkedIn profile. So your LinkedIn profile, even though you need to tailor your resume, your LinkedIn profile should really be quite similar to your resume, because there are situations when the person changes the resume so much that it looks completely different to the LinkedIn profile, and a lot of hiring managers will look. Now, some hiring managers might look at your, you know, Twitter or, you know, YouTube or whatever your settings are. So just make sure that there's nothing there that would put you in a you know, just bad position. Like you don't want to have any like, you know, pictures that no one, for example, should see. So what I mentioned that achievements are super important. So really, when you send your resume, when you're looking for work, employer will be asking in their head, like, you know, how have you solved my problem? Or how can you improve my organization? And you answer that question by outlining how you've done this for your current and past employer. So on your resume, I would really remove all of the responsible for or duties included, but instead quantify your achievements with measurable components if possible. And you want to use action verbs to tell your story with impact. So how do you list achievements? How do you prepare this list of achievements? You would want to look at the time frame, scale, and results. So for example, time frame, you know, maybe you've talked to 50 customers on a daily basis. Maybe you worked on some kind of process improvement project that took 3 months to complete, right? So you might want to mention that just to show the complexity of what you were doing. Also the scale. So maybe it's a number of people you've managed. Maybe it's the budget you've managed, or, you know, perhaps you manage marketing campaigns of 5 key clients in a specific sector. So you want to have some numbers in your achievements. And then the final result. So whenever you've done something that saves time or money, you would want to mention that. So, you know, what was the return on investment? How many customers have you gained? You know, how many pieces of press coverage did you manage to secure? So you want to have some tangible result. And I wanted to share some examples here of different achievements for different positions. And these specific achievements, there's actually a great article I would recommend. It's in my notes, but you can't see that here. It's an article from Novo Resume. Just Google 100 achievements Novo Resume, because they have literally like 100 of them listed there. And it just, like, I think it serves as a really great inspiration of what you can do with your resume. So I'm not going to read all of them here, but when you look at this, at the screen here, sales associate, you know, instead of just saying cold clients on a daily basis, the person mentioned they've called over 20 clients on a daily basis and the closing rate was 20%. Or they've hit and exceeded sales by 30%. Also as an accountant, okay, so you're not in the sales position, and a lot of people think, oh, well, I don't work in sales, so it's difficult to quantify. Well, you can mention that you're managing financial reports for 8 different departments, or you've helped the company stay within budget for 3 years in a row. Some more examples here. And as you can see, there are some numbers, right? So like implemented new scripts that increase performance by 25%, or managed to reduce customer churn by 15%, and you mentioned how. Or you managed a team of a few people in developing a new financial management software. So think of how can you quantify your experience? How can you change the current responsibilities you have into something that's more quantifiable? Some more examples here, more in marketing. So again, instead of just saying worked on a company's social media accounts, right? They mention improved user engagement or increased conversions by 20%. I know you can't always have that specific number as such, but maybe a number of projects you've completed or receiving, I don't know, some kind of award that obviously would be a result as well. And you can really have some tangible achievements in absolutely every single position. So even an office manager, maybe they found new office supply providers cutting supply costs by 20%. Maybe they've trained and managed 15 cleaning and maintenance staff. Or even as an admin assistant, even if you're in a junior position, maybe you've communicated with over 20 clients on a daily basis or assisted onboarding, X amount of employees. So there's always something that you can do in terms of achievements. Now, just some a few more resume tips. Don't spend too much. I mean, you obviously need to spend time on your resume, but don't necessarily spend too much money on your resume as well, because while I think sometimes it could be useful to use a resume writer, from what I've seen, if you want like a really good resume writer, you really need to spend I don't do resume writing, so don't think I'm trying to sell myself. I don't. I'm just saying that really good resume writers who will really take time to understand what you do, they charge $500, $700, $1,000 and above. Whereas all of these people who charge $200, $300, because I've used one, I was curious what they will do, and they actually don't really understand your job. They will do a good job with formatting, but they actually don't really understand your job as well as you do. So I will share some templates later that you might be interested in. But in general, you can most likely do it yourself. You obviously don't want to have any typos. Typically, I would say maximum 3 pages if you have 15 plus years of experience. Ideally, you want to do it within 2 pages. Not using action verbs. So what are action verbs? Instead of saying responsible for, action verbs would be managed, initiated, implemented, led, all of those kind of words. You want to have them on your resume. And also don't use bold, using bold could be actually great, but some people have a lot of different, fonts and italics and bold, just don't overdo it. And definitely remember, quantify your results. Translate your roles and functions into the role you are seeking. So you want to make it relevant. You might want to list a few fun interests as a conversation starter, but only if they're quite fun interests, because if you just put reading and exercising, that's what most people do. And also LinkedIn profile easily linked on your resume and working. So make sure that that's working as well. So let me just share some good resume examples here. So when you look at this template, that's actually something I would really recommend, is that you have, you don't necessarily need a targeted job title. You might, it just depends on your industry, whether you're looking to change industries, but you definitely want to have a summary section and or core competency section. So what you would have in a summary section, that summary section should really be optimized and tailored to the specific position that you're looking for. So you would mention what are your main areas of expertise, how is it relevant to the position that you are targeting? You can mention your industry expertise or product expertise. If you're looking at career change, you might want to mention your transferable skills and make it clear that you're looking to switch industries. And then the core competency section, if you do have it, you would just have a few bullet points and pick the stuff from the job description that you have experience in. And ideally, those should be, well, not just the hard skills, but if you only have things that are communication skills, influencing skills, that means nothing without examples in a way. So I would definitely mention some hard skills there as well. And then when you have your professional experience section or work experience section, as I mentioned, ideally remove the responsible for or duties included and have as many achievements as possible. So when you look at the screen here, think of, okay, well, how do you know you did a good job? because that will help you in writing your resume. Also look at how did you maybe save money, made money, or streamline the process, or just positively contributed to the company, and be specific. Was your manager happy with your work, or what did your work colleagues come to you for? And yeah, so the more you ask yourself the questions, the easier it's going to become to write your resume. Here is just another example, that's from an HR director. What's good about this resume? So firstly, brief summary section, but you can see that it's a senior HR executive. They mention what the main areas of expertise are, unlike all of their areas of expertise in the core competency section. And then when you look at where they've worked, again, you can see like a one line about what this company is doing. I mean, I've never heard of Donovan Corporation, but 200 million communications and technology services provider. And again, some specific achievements, manage the number of the budget, or how many people, directing a team of HR professionals. So exactly what I was saying earlier in terms of how you can quantify your experience. Another example here, that's sales management leader. Again, similar format, strong summary section, a few different areas of expertise, and then again, similar format in that you have some specific achievements listed and some numbers listed on your resume. And that's the second part of that resume. So when you look at that, again, I like how this person mentioned what this company is doing, especially they may be applying to, in a slightly different sector. And again, there are some numbers here. So are you going to have number for every single bullet point? No, of course not. But try to have as many tangible achievements as possible. Okay. So when you start looking for a job, I think a mistake that people make is that they only rely on applying for jobs online. And if you just apply for jobs online, you honestly could be looking for a very long time. So what I would really recommend to everyone is to create a list of target companies, at least 20 to 30 organizations. Try to connect with decision makers there. Try to just connect with recruiters there, or potentially people in the same position, and see if you can try to gain more information about working for this specific organization. So in general, in terms of how do you build your network, just wanted to give a few quick tips, and I will share some specific scripts later. A lot of people wait until they find a job. Sorry, they wait until they're looking for a job before they start networking. But you really should make it a habit in terms of stay in contact with your network, stay in contact with your previous bosses, with colleagues. Definitely don't contact someone and ask them for a job. I get these emails all the time. It's extremely, if definitely someone has done the research, they're actually really interested in our company, then great, of course, contact me, I'm the recruiter. But I am getting so many emails from people who I don't even know why they're contacting me, because I don't work in the industry and never have, So really research the person you are contacting. Don't just ask for the job, give before you get, and make it easy to help you find the job, as in make it easy in terms of explain what is it exactly that you're looking for, what is that you're trying to achieve. Also, the power of those loose ties, so most of us, when I speak to my interview coaching clients, and someone is looking for a job, and I'm like, how many people know that you're looking? And typically it's their wife, their husband and their family. So really you want your ex-colleagues, your ex-bosses to know that you're looking, and you really want to be contacting people and just make sure that people who can potentially help you know that you're looking for work. And you just never know where that job opportunity might come from. Many years ago, my contract ended with one company. I was looking for a new job. I've emailed, I've messaged 60 or 70 people, and literally 3 days later, one of them sent me a lead, and that was the job I've joined at VMware, and I stayed there for 3 years. So you just never know where that opportunity could come from. You might potentially want to join some professional networking group or industry-related groups, potentially online, doesn't have to be face-to-face. I would definitely recommend you contact employers directly and talk to insiders instead of just applying online. Signing up to Google News alerts, I would definitely do it for all of the companies you're interested in, or maybe for specific people you're interested in, and definitely sign up on LinkedIn. You can use LinkedIn wisely, not just to contact employers, but you can also use it to do your research. So make sure you follow all of the companies you're interested in, because that will give you something to talk about when you contact people. And for the tech sector, there's some other resources that you might want to check. Some of them are just US like built-in. I think that's mostly US. I've actually contributed to a couple of articles there, but there are a few other ones that are just relevant to the US. TechCrunch I use actually always for just job interview research. So firstly, if you are connecting, like let's say you have found, let's say you are interested in a specific company and you would just like to get some information about what is it like to, work there. And maybe you just want to like talk to anyone in, say, the marketing department, just to ask them specific questions. So firstly, I would use the connection request on LinkedIn rather than email, purely because some people just never check their email, or they just don't use it very often. You would want to keep the message concise and friendly, use the person's first name. I will share some example in a moment. You just like one sentence about what you have in common or what you want to connect, and use the first name because research shows it's effective. Definitely don't misspell the name. Definitely don't ask them to chat until they've actually accepted your connection request. And most definitely don't send your resume. That's like a very, very, very big mistake. And then ideally you want to set up time to speak. So you might want to, if it's someone that you maybe met before at an event, even if it was years ago, you might want to remind the contact how you know each other. If it is someone that you haven't met, it's like a complete stranger, I would actually first start with people that you have some connections in common. But if you contact a complete stranger, you still might want to, I would mention why you're looking to connect, and mention something specific on the profile that interested you. So state what is it that you're asking for, whether it's advice or recommendations. Again, I would not be asking for someone to refer you if they've never met you. So just don't make that mistake. Thank your contact in advance for the cooperation and definitely follow up. I would follow up once or twice. But yeah, if they don't answer after the second time, you might just want to leave it. Like, don't be greedy with your request, as in, don't expect they're going to have lunch with you. Don't expect they're going to help you find a job. You're asking for 10, 20 minutes of the time. So here are just some of the scripts you can use. So you send someone a connection request, and you might just want to say something like, thanks for connecting with me. I've been looking at my next opportunity, and I'm very interested in whichever the company is. I would love to learn more about your journey to whichever role they are in, and any advice you would share with someone looking to join. Would you be open to chatting in the coming weeks? Or similar, thanks for connecting. It looks like you've had an interesting career, and you might want to mention something that you found interesting. And like, I would love to hear more about the path you took to that specific company or a role, and hear any advice you have. Would you be open to a 15-30-minute chat in the coming weeks? So will everyone respond? Absolutely not. Of course not. But at the same time, if you contact 50 people, there will be definitely a few who will respond, and that will just get you away into a specific organization. Some more scripts. So you might want to mention, hey, John, I see you've jumped from company A to company B. I've been interested in company B. If you're open to it, I would love to grab 15-20 minutes of your time to learn about how you made that jump. Would you be open to chatting in the coming weeks? Would you be open to a virtual coffee in the coming weeks? If so, let me know of a good time for you, and I can work around your schedule. So you want to be gracious, you want to be flexible. And just like some final tips here, if you are finding that people aren't responding to your request, you can maybe also say something like, would you be up for a quick chat in the coming weeks? But then add, if not, no worries, I know things are busy and happy to remain connected here on LinkedIn. So sometimes when you give them that opportunity to say no, that kind of makes it easier for them to reply and say yes, because they just feel less pressurized. So don't lead with big asks, as in like asking for a job. You would never be asking a stranger for a job. And if they agree to a conversation, you can say, thank you, I'm happy to work around your schedule, and just ask if there are any particular days or times that work for you. So I know I'm going through it quickly, but I also know we have like a few more minutes left. So I briefly wanted to talk about interview preparation. Interview preparation is a very big topic in itself, but I just wanted to give you like a few tips for today. So firstly, in terms of research, you really want to know your resume like backwards, forwards, and every angle in between. It happens so many times that I'm talking to someone. I was actually talking to a client this morning, and she mentioned that she's really good at, and she had that on her resume as well, she's very good at making processes more efficient. And then I'm asking her for an example, and she couldn't come up with anything. So like anything you put on your resume, you really need to be able to talk about in detail. And also you like let's say you work in sales. Ideally, instead of just say that you've improved sales by 30%, you want to know what the initial sales numbers were, like what markets contributed to the increase, and then like what was the final result. So like really be prepared to talk about every bullet point on your resume. You also want to research the company, the position for which you are interviewing, and the interviewers. Now, of course, everyone will look at the company's website, but the interview isn't a test to see if you can read the company's website. So I would really recommend that you do a lot more than that. So what I would normally do, I would see what's written about the company online in general. So I would just Google articles, I would look at any industry magazines. I would look at Google News and see if there's any recent news that are written about the company. I would definitely look at all of the social media profiles. I mean, LinkedIn in particular is typically great because they will have information like some social information, what they're posting, what they're talking about. If they have a YouTube channel or Instagram, again, I would look at that. I would watch those YouTube videos. I would make some notes. I would prepare some questions. I remember many years ago, I was interviewing with this tech company for a sales recruiter role. And I actually watched like many videos. I had prepared the whole script about how the product is working. And I watched the video of the CEO talking about the trends. And, I then I prepared, had this information prepared for the interview. Now, I didn't actually get this role. The guy who got it, I have to say, he was better for this role. He had more relevant experience in those specific markets they were looking for. But I got a really fantastic feedback from this interview, and they specifically commented how impressed they were that they've really gone through the trouble of learning about the product before the interview. So yeah, look at the financial information, look at TechCrunch, look at their funding rounds if they are a startup. Look at the social media, look at what employees are saying about them on Glassdoor. And yeah, definitely any kind of videos, any kind of social media profiles. And also the interviewer. So you might want to check their profile on LinkedIn, if it's someone who maybe spoke at some events. Again, I will maybe look at that and see if you have any commonalities, if there's anything that you can then mention in an interview to build rapport. And also, like, you want to prepare answers to the standard interview questions. We will not have a chance today to talk about how you should answer these questions, but when you look at most interviews, most of them will have some really predictable interview questions. They will typically ask you something like, tell us about yourself, and why do you want this role, and what do you know about us, and what salary are you looking for? And they will typically ask for some examples of achievements or challenging situations or influencing. So you definitely want to make sure you prepare these answers. So, in general, to stand out in job interviews, you want to be prepared by not over-rehearse. So I would definitely prepare examples of how you have performed the duties listed on the job description. But you also don't want to be like over-prepared. I once had this coaching client, and so we were doing a mock interview, and literally before I finished asking the question, this person would like have an answer ready. So it almost sounded like it was like completely over rehearsed. And then finally I asked some questions that I thought they wouldn't know the answer to. And indeed, they were struggling for an answer. So it's fine to think about it a little bit when they ask you a question. So you don't want to sound like a robot, right? So it's very important that you show the interviewer on your resume and in a job interview how you would add value as an employee. So you want to answer your questions with stories and specific examples. And definitely talk about more than just what's on your resume, because I've seen your resume as a recruiter. Like, you don't just need to repeat what's there. You want to like give me more of a story about what you've done, what you've achieved, your motivations, etc. Things like body language and posture and maintaining eye contact, super important. If you are interviewing on Zoom right now, you want to be looking mostly at the camera. So if you can see me right now, like right now I'm looking at the camera. So in an interview situation, it looks like if I'm keeping eye contact. Right now I'm looking at the screen, which obviously that's what I'm doing most of the time. So I look at the slides, but in a job interview situation, you want to be looking mostly at the camera, and also have the laptop or desktop or whatever more than at an eye level. So if you don't have a laptop stand, you can just have like a few books and put a laptop on a few books. You want to be enthusiastic. Again, you don't need to be like super, happy or crazy, not, overly enthusiastic, but it's really important you show some enthusiasm for the position, because sometimes there are candidates where they have good resume, but they just like so monotonous and so just uninspired during the interview, and that's typically not gonna get you the job. And you want to ask some good questions at the end as well. Some questions should be based on the research you've done on the company, but at the same time, you might want to ask questions such as, what would you expect me to achieve in the first 6 months? Or, what is the team like, or how big is the team? What are the challenges of the role? What are the priorities of the role? These might be some of the good questions to ask. And at the end, at the end of the interview, actually, that should be the slide after that, but it's here. So at the end of the interview, you want to thank them for the time. Again, just tell them why you're interested in the position. And if it hasn't been explained to you, ask them what the next steps are. And when the interview is finished, I would really write a thank you email to just really emphasize your interest in the company. It doesn't have to be a long email. Not many people do that, and it just creates a nice impression. So you might want to reference parts of the conversation to demonstrate good listening skills for each thank you note that you've sent. And if there is something that you forgot to mention in an interview, that could be a good place to mention it as well. And this slide should be the previous slide, but never mind, I just noticed that now. So in general, I think most of you are aware of the STAR format, or, problem, situation, or problem or challenge, action, and results. And it's good to mention learning as well. So in general, when you prepare your examples of achievements, problem solving, influencing, collaboration, working under pressure, negotiating, you want to follow that format. So what was the specific problem? What actions did you take? What was the result? And ideally, what was the learning? So just remembering that would be so like similar to the examples I've shared earlier on how to quantify your experience. You want to do the same here in a job interview. You want to prepare your examples using that format. You want to make sure you provide some context around the situation. Like if you talk about the problem solving example, explain what the problem was, how it was affecting the company or the team, what would have happened if you hadn't resolved it. Talk about the actions. If it took 6 months to resolve versus 2 weeks or 2 hours, mention that because it's obviously more complex. What specific actions did you take? What was the result? And what did you learn as a result? So, okay, so I know I've talked a lot. I hope that you found it useful. This is a huge topic, and that literally could be a half-a-day workshop, if not a full-day workshop. But we only have about 45 minutes. So for anyone who is looking and who is interested, firstly, I offer free 15-minute coaching session for the first 10 people who contact me on the Carrus platform. So the link is here. And I'm pretty sure if you go to Carrus, you just type in my name, you'll be able to find it as well. And also for anyone, for all webinar attendees, you can also get 10% off a coaching session. So feel free to take a screenshot of this link. But if you go to Carrus platform, I'm sure you can, right, Mile? I think you can just go and find me by name.
Margaret.
Yeah.
So we have attached Margaret's profile link on the chat also.
Yeah, you will find me. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. There's just one Margaret Bui there, and the link is here as well. So yeah, I've got some YouTube videos as well, but you're very welcome to send me a message on LinkedIn as well. I think I have 29,000 connections right now. So, the bigger your network, the more people you can get access to as well. So I think that's it, right? It is actually the end. So maybe I will stop sharing. And again, feel free to be honest, you don't need to take a screenshot, just as long as you have my name. There's just one of me. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone the same surname, or not Margaret Bui in any case. So let me stop sharing and I will see if there are any questions.
Yep, sure. So we have one question to start. This question is this question is from Abhilasha.
Yeah.
So I try to put it short.
Yeah.
So she's an international student in UK, right? And she has been doing a good resume, networking on LinkedIn, as suggested by you. But then she's not getting positive response. Now, Abhilasha wants to know if there is something that she has been missing.
Yeah.
Or is there bias against international students?
I mean, in terms of the visa sponsorship, yes, for sure, because a lot of companies, they will never offer that. First, you only need to be looking at companies that have a sponsorship license, and that actually hire graduates, because there are plenty of organizations that even if you're the best candidate, they will still not go through all the hassle of getting the sponsorship license, especially like right now when many people work from home. So but at the same time, there are companies that hire international students and graduates. So it's just looking at companies that do have a sponsorship license. But it's very hard for me to say, because I don't know exactly what you've been saying in those LinkedIn messages. It's very hard for me to say, like, no positive leads. If you've been really doing that actively for a couple of months and you have not even one lead yet, then I would say there's probably something you could be doing better with your approach. And I presume you're looking at contacting employers directly, making sure you're contacting employers that have a sponsorship license, potentially looking at companies that have some kind of graduate programs. But yeah, the visa sponsorship, if of course, it's an issue, but it's not impossible. Like, I have worked with plenty of people who they got their first job due to, like, they got the sponsorship. So I don't think it's impossible, but it's gonna be harder for you. Yes, for sure, but it's not impossible. So yeah, but you don't also believe that students have no chance of a job. You need to give it your best. Even actually the client I spoke to this morning, I mean, she's back in China now, but she worked in the UK and she got she worked for, I can't remember the company, but she worked initially in the UK after studying, doing her master's in the UK, and she got that student's license. So also have a look at what potentially other visas can you get, because I think there's something now called the Global Talent Visa. And when you have that visa, you actually don't need sponsorship. You can just work for an employer in the UK. I think it's called Global Talent Visa. It's something that I only heard about a few months ago. But I know that when you have that, you will not need sponsorship. So, okay, just looking. Yep. Okay, what's a good price range for a professional resume rewrite? Honestly, I actually don't know, because I'm not a resume writer, frankly. If you're just looking for like a bit of a rewrite in terms of, formatting, you just want you just want it to look a bit better. I think there's plenty of them that you can have it done for, $250, $300 or something like that. That's if it's just like a bit of a rewrite. But if you're a senior exec, I honestly think it's like more like $1,000 and above, and actually I have seen resumes of people. I had some clients who had their resumes professionally rewritten, and I have to say that when they paid a lot, they looked really good. The difference was it was good. So I think if you're very senior, it does make sense to have it done professionally. But my issue with these like cheaper resume writers is they don't understand your job. I'm not like amazing with formatting, so I actually sent it to one because I wanted to have my formatting done. And but the problem is they kind of asked me like what job I'm interested in, so I've mentioned, and it's the problem when you deal with someone who actually doesn't understand your job, because what these people have done, it was so stupid. They went online, they looked for like what these people in that job are doing, and they've put some stuff on my resume I haven't done. So I'm like, I haven't done that. You can't put that on my resume. It's great. It looks amazing, but I haven't done it, I can't lie on my resume. So, so I had to change a lot. Like they had some good sentences that I liked. I think formatting looked great. So from that perspective, paying the £200 or dollars, it was worth it, because it does look better, but I had to remove like quite a lot of stuff. I haven't done that stuff. So that's the problem. They just don't really understand your job as well as you do. So.
Perfect. That was quite an interesting answer and quite precise. Thank you, Margaret. So yeah, are there any questions? Jan, Jenny, Lena?
Yeah, any questions? I think otherwise we'll be ending, right? So, but if there are any questions, feel free to ask me right now while I'm still here.
Let's wait for 2 minutes in case someone is typing.
Sure.
But yeah, then obviously we are going to send you the recording also to all the attendees, and all the attendees, you obviously have an offer for attending this session live. So if you have any questions, you can actually drop in on the YouTube video also when we will upload it. So yeah, multiple, if you're shy, you can ask them.
Glad you found it useful. I know it was like a lot of content in this session. There was a lot of content, right? But at the same time, I don't like the fluffy sessions when the person spends 20 minutes telling them why you need to know something, but not actually telling you what you need to know. So I hope it was useful.
Yeah. Okay, then, Margaret, I think that's all for the questions.
Okay.
It was indeed a very informative session and webinar, right?
Thank you, everyone. And, feel free to, like, if you, have any questions like later, feel free to send me a message on the Carrus platform. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, if you just need anything. So
yeah,
thank you so much.
I'm attaching the link again. So yeah, thank you, Margaret. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And yeah, enjoy your weekend, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.